Pecker's testifying about conversations he's had directly with Donald Trump. He's testifying to what Donald Trump has told him. There's a moment where a Wall Street Journal article comes out about Karen McDougal, and I'm stealing Andrew Weissman's computer for this, but Pecker says Donald Trump was very upset, saying, "How could this happen? I thought you had this under control. Either you or one of your people have leaked this story." And Pecker said to Trump, "I said, Donald, there was no way on earth I would leak the story."
It's very good. It's direct evidence. I was in Supreme Court land earlier, so I was thinking of the defense perspective. I heard that Cohen said the boss will take care of it. Michael Cohen came to Pecker. So this sort of feeds into the defense. Cohen did it. And so I'm wondering how much testimony Pecker has given where it was directly directed to do things by the boss Trump as opposed to Cohen. But a lot of what he has talked about with his interaction with Trump, I think, sort of helps prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Trump himself had the intent to commit or conceal that other crime.
Including a phone call between David Pecker and Donald Trump 3 days before the election.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And afterwards saying, "Thank you for helping me on the election." Right? I mean, so it ties it to the campaign.
Yeah.
So again, Trump's defense is, number one, I didn't have anything to do with this. This was just Michael Cohen trying to help me out. Number two, it had nothing to do with my campaign. It was for personal reasons. And so they're blowing this defense out of the water here. Like, dude, you clearly were concerned about your campaign, not your relationship. You see the Chiron? Pecker admits catch and kill scheme was to help Trump in 2016 election. So to help his campaign, not just his personal life. I don't even know if his personal life was his concern.
How does Blanche cross-examine Pecker?
He can do the "you're a sleaze bag," but basically Pecker's admitted to it. He's owned it. I did checkbook journalism. I did that. So what he's going to try to do is what I said. How much was it him and Cohen directing everything as opposed to my innocent client, Donald Trump? That's his only way of doing that. Even that tape, which people say is the bombshell, unless we've only heard an excerpt of it, Cohen is saying when Trump says cash, he says, no, I got it. So that's the defense perspective. So that's their only chance, because they can go and, and you've lied because your whole career is just putting lies. So you're a liar. But it speaks for itself if you can corroborate what Pecker is saying, Cohen is saying, and all the other documents.
You also have any number of people who have been in the courtroom who have described him as credible that people seem to be paying very close attention.
He's his authentic self.
It's a very difficult cross, and just to build on what Catherine said, because I think you have to do that. You have to keep on sort of putting Michael Cohen as central as possible. But the other is to do what's called a safe cross, which is just to point out what he hasn't testified to. So, if he doesn't say anything about the actual 34 false documents that are at the core, just to say, you didn't say anything about that. You didn't know when they were created. You didn't see them. You don't know who signed them. Just to bring the jury back to that, to say, okay, well, there's this story, but let's just focus on something very specific. And that's sort of a safe cross, because this is somebody who, you don't know what else he has. And, that's notable, as many people have pointed out, that Donald Trump has attacked lots of people in the court system, but not this witness.
That is true. Trump has not gone after David Pecker on his social media. He hasn't said anything. And Pecker said hi to Trump on day one, but from what I recall, they haven't talked in years, according to reporters who know people around them, I guess. Maybe somebody asked Trump if he's spoken to him, but doesn't seem like they're on terrible terms based on that. So it is kind of interesting that David Pecker has not been attacked by Trump. So he probably has a bunch of skeletons that of Trump's that he could release if Trump messed with them or something. So it's kind of funny. Like, maybe Trump's even scared of that guy. David's like, "Hi, how you doing? Remember me? Yeah, I'm the one who's got a lot of your secrets, champ." So not just about business records, but election interference.
This trial has some powerful witness. We've yet to see the cross-examination, I should point out.
Indeed it does. So the caution is the government gets to go first because it has the burden of proof. If it didn't look like the government was winning right now, Alvin Bragg would be in big trouble. But the evidence that the Manhattan DA is presenting is really compelling. Again, we think of what happened at the Supreme Court this day as being about the election interference case. Alvin Bragg insists his case isn't about business records. His case is also about election interference. So he's saying that the reason that all these payments were made to people who Trump had relationships with, and in some cases, people who made false claims about Trump, it wasn't because Trump was concerned about Melania, which is his defense. He didn't want his family members to be embarrassed. This was all about the campaign. It was about the 2016 campaign. So again, Bragg has a good point when he says this is as much about election interference as what's going on in Washington, D.C.
You see the comments there from this guy. Like, that's Trump's best defense. Is like, first of all, I didn't do this, but if I did do this, I did it for Melania in order to protect my family because I didn't want them to be hurt further after the Access Hollywood tape came out. That's like his best defense, right? Okay, you got me. I did all this stuff, but I didn't do it to mess with the election because Alvin Bragg not only has to prove that the records were falsified, but he has to prove that that was done in order to influence the campaign illegally. So he has to prove like two crimes, basically. One, the falsification of business records, and that Trump was tied to that. We know that Michael Cohen, the lawyer, was paid for lawyer services or retainer services, even though that wasn't true, and that's not what those payments were for. But the question is, can you connect Trump to that? Yes, Trump signed some checks, but that may not be enough. I don't know. I'm sure they have other evidence, like audio recordings, testimony from different people. But then you have to also prove that those business records were falsified in order to interfere with the election and commit a campaign finance violation, which, again, you got to connect Trump to that. So it's definitely a tough case for the prosecutors. But, again, I don't think they would bring this case forward if they didn't think they could nail it. Pecker said he had not talked to Trump since 2019, but still considered him a friend as he testified against him at his criminal trial. What a sentence. Wow. Yeah, it seems like he's friendly. I don't know. I didn't read about Trump's response to him saying hi, just that he said hi and Trump staring at him or something. But clearly Trump doesn't hate him or think it's worth attacking him for whatever reason because he hasn't done so on social media. And it doesn't seem like Trump is one to hold back out of like any fear or anything. But I guess he has a genuine reason probably to be scared of David Pecker. Probably the only person, one of the very few people on this planet that Trump is a little afraid of, because that guy probably has a ton of his secrets.
Katie and Chris, that for whatever reasons, you rarely see a defendant in court without any member of the family, not the sons, not the daughter.
Yeah, what is this about? This has been the case for all his indictments, all his court appearances. Nobody's there. Like, I would go out of my way to be there for a family member if it was somebody, like, especially like a father or a brother or your husband. Like, how are these people not there at all? I mean, I'd be so livid if one of my family members was being accused of this stuff and they were innocent, and I knew that they even more, like, I don't know what his relationship is with Melania. It doesn't seem like it's a healthy one, but what do we know? I don't know. Maybe they're thrilled. Maybe they're madly in love with each other and they just like to keep it private. I don't know. I doubt it based on what we've seen, but we don't know. Nobody knows. But where the hell's the family, man? Like, how it's so sad seeing Trump just sit there by himself. Guess they want to avoid the press. I mean, you could make that argument, but it doesn't appear to be the case. Like, Don Jr. has his own podcast, and, you know, they're all out there talking to the media, and they're very public, you know. They seem to love attention, so I don't know.
The amount of detail that David Pecker is providing and being very consistent about it, and also his demeanor described on the stand.
He's got an immunity deal, which I think makes this more interesting.
Yeah.
And it certainly seems to be allowing him to talk more freely, it seems. You know, you're talking about what was happening on the campaign trail. Remember, there was a crazy moment. It was right around the convention. I think it was right after the convention, because Ted Cruz wasn't supporting Donald Trump. He got up on the convention convention stage when Donald Trump was going to be nominated. At the moment, Donald Trump was worried that there would be an uprising within the convention and they would actually end up nominating Ted Cruz and not him. And Ted Cruz gets up to give a speech, and everyone says, oh, this is the moment where Ted Cruz is going to finally endorse Donald Trump. He doesn't say anything about Donald Trump during that speech. He notably does not endorse him. Doesn't.
I don't remember that. I wasn't paying attention anywhere near like I am now, but that's wild to hear now. I do think it is pretty alarming how the National Enquirer was running all these headlines, and it was just I said this previously, but I always thought the National Enquirer was just kind of a drama baiter, and they would focus on salacious stories and drama. But it turns out they're just making stuff up and just posting crazy things, and people stand there in the grocery store. I don't know if they do nowadays. I mean, I do see the magazine still there, but it's more like People Magazine and In Touch. But people stare and they see the headlines, and it's kind of like seeing the trending topics on Twitter or something. You know, you kind of take it in and you register it and you move on. And for a lot of people, that's their entire news consumption, the National Enquirer cover, while they're purchasing groceries, you know. And then it's kind of like anything in marketing, where if you see something 7 times, that's what I learned in business school, that the reason why they have billboards and TV ads where they don't tell you to go buy something right away is because if you see a brand 7 times, you get comfortable with it, and you'll kind of trust it enough to purchase it at some point over other brands. So, you know, if you see a bunch of times that Ted Cruz is a monster, then maybe it starts to register with you that, like, Ted Cruz kind of sucks, you know? And you just assume that these magazines are being honest to some degree. It's not like there's a UFO on the other side of the cover, you know. So, you know, it's a bit too late to have any impact on anything, and you know, because I don't think those magazines play that big of a role nowadays. But wow, it's kind of shocking, you know. It kind of pulls back the curtain a bit on how this place is run. Period. Like, there's people in power that manipulate how we all see the world, and it's done through television, it's done through newspapers, but you know, crazy, man.